Hi.
Hi. Me.
Mm, Seems the others won't be online for quite a long time. Mm, Getting worse.
Oh, my throat. It's going in my throat. I can't get it out.
I hate it when that happens.
I hate it. Sick week. I hate it when it happens. This is sick week and my personal mirror is right here, and I like it. Yeah, my nostril get clogged every time I fall asleep, and I hate it
Oh,
so
lovely.
much.
I only slept 5
Only
hours, and
one
that's a
side.
good thing, because apparently someone called me at 6 in the morning to tell me
I
that
got
my
off
dad
when I
was
woke.
going into surgery.
Oh.
Fucking hell.
I woke up with my headset completely off and I was on my stomach. And then
Yeah.
literally it's like, oh, my body forced it off.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I didn't sleep that long anyways.
Yeah, and today I just passed myself out again. My life is gonna be like this now, and I don't like it, but it's gonna be like this. Sounds sick.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's fine. I can't jump up here.
I didn't want anybody else to see my negative because I was full on negative there.
Yeah, that's fine.
Even
I
if I laugh and
understand.
giggles, I'm completely on negative.
That's
So
fine.
that's why I didn't let my that's the reason why I didn't let Sissy here.
Hmm.
Because I don't want that demon to get stronger than me. Also, I was so much pain of head yesterday, and now it's gone. Finally.
I'm going to put something on the video player. You might find it
Alright.
interesting, I don't know. It has a lot of gore and death in it, so I don't know.
Oh, it's. I am slightly not in that right now, and slightly am, but it's going away a little bit.
It's just a game.
Nice. This is one of those games that
Hmm.
advertises your choice affects the story, only instead of affecting maybe 5 lines of dialogue and getting you to
Damn.
the same place anyway.
We turn that thing up.
The game, the landscapes, and even the princess change to reflect those choices you make. I would also like to say that this game is, like, really good. So good, in fact, that I paid an extra $10 for the supporters pack. Not just to get access to this image in 4K, I promise. So if you would like to go on this trip yourself first before watching anything about it, I would
I saw that.
very much
I saw that
recommend
game.
it. Trust
One
me,
of
it is
one of
so
the YouTuber played that, and I watched
Yes.
it.
This tells you about all the endings and what they all mean. Basically.
Hmm.
At the end of this path is a
I
cabin.
got
In
pillow.
the basement of the cabin is a princess. Your objective is not only spelled out to you, but told to you by a character named the narrator. Go do it. The voice that's always present and the voice that always converses with the narrator is named the voice of the hero. He's usually the rational thinker that tries to find a middle ground if he can, or tries to find a path where everybody's happy. Now right here, right from the start, is where you can drastically change your fate. So for the sake of contextualization, let's just stick to one path. Proceed to the cabin, take the blade, go downstairs. She will call you out and make fun of you for feeling the need to take a knife with you. But does she have a reason to be so carefree? Is she hiding something? Well, yeah, you stand absolutely zero chance that she breaks every bone in your body. Unbelievable issue regarding skill, but when you die, something interesting happens. The world returns back to normal. But with the exception of something strange, a voice from the past that remembers your fate from the previous life, a voice that interacts with the hero and the narrator. This voice could very well be you from the previous life that got your world rocked. And I know this because he's called Voice of the Broken. And well, you did die having basically every single bone in your body broken. But let's not worry about that right now. Right now, you have a job to do. From this standpoint, it looks like everything is the same. Nothing has really changed between this life and the last, minus the broken. But when you get to the cabin, you'll find out that it has undergone some serious renovations. The narrator will continue to narrate as usual, but curiously, he doesn't mention the large black mirror, and upon interaction, it disappears. What was that? Who cares? Downstairs, the princess is waiting for you, but this time she's changed. She's colossal, levitating above the ground with a window shining a holy.
He turning into a monster.
The little bird has returned.
No.
I wonder what he wants.
Something
Almost
more.
deified, and she acts as such, demanding respect, and when you don't comply, your body moves on its own. No matter what you do,
Okay,
it
I'm
seems
gonna
you
hide
are
myself.
completely hopeless. Until something unknown interrupts and takes her away. Something that is above both yours and her power. Welcome to the long quiet. The same mirror that appeared earlier now stands front and center. Its reflection contains one of the most hideous sights you've ever laid your eyes on, that being yourself. Wait, yeah! You're then taken to a path not too dissimilar to the path that we're on that once
Really? They gotta add that for a second.
Yes, they did.
You can refer to this
A bunch
as
of
the
hands.
Shifting Mound, a mysterious being that appears at the end of yours and the princess's stories.
I never seen this part.
Appearance that slowly
Shifting
gets more
Mound
complex with
is
every
something that
interaction, and only appears
you
now as
only
a passive
see
grabby hands. She doesn't know what she is or what her purpose is. All she
after
knows is
you
that she's
know
incomplete and wanting to be made whole again
where
with
the
new
long quiet
perspectives. She
is.
needs vessels, or the bundles of nerves and fibers that contain perspectives.
And
the one she's gotten
you
thus
are
far
the
is
long
Tower
quiet
Princess.
when
the
you
grabby
play
hands
this
grab a
game.
new vessel, and trust
So
me, there are a
that's
lot
why
of
you
them.
have to look
Oh.
at yourself.
To the shifting mound, where the
to
shifting
find
mound
it.
will then make them one with her. Confused yet? Good. She does
Oh.
seem to have some kind of relationship with the player character, though, describing you as familiar, and interestingly says that you are like her. 2 oceans reduced to shallow creeks. Yeah, this world is pretty much screwed, but hey, as long as you forget, you can go back and try again. Maybe you won't damn the next one to oblivion. Find new perspectives,
Get all
find
the
new
endings.
vessels to bring back to the shifting mound
Exactly.
and complete her. Now all that's left is to forget and go back.
She asks that I tell you to remember her. You won't.
Now that you are sufficiently confused on what's going on, but still contextualized enough to hopefully want to figure out more and watch more of the video, yummy watch time. Let's start getting into all the different paths. you
Oh,
can
not
take,
that one.
All the princesses you can meet and utterly agonizing deaths to undergo. Starting with my personal favorite, the Razor. The Razor Princess can be reached by first going to Chapter 1, taking the blade into the basement. Don't kill her immediately, but refuse to drop the knife. And then game enter. Check for a pulse, get jump scared, boom, Razor. Also, you fucking died.
Hey,
The cabin
Foxy!
becomes covered wall to
Are you
wall,
bringing
jagged.
Foxy back again?
Yes,
From the basement are
exactly.
sounds
That was like the
of
3 times.
wedding. What, you ask?
3 times.
Go find out, coward. Now, the reason
Oh,
why I
shit.
like this princess so much is because she is so obviously hiding something and is completely incapable of telling a lie, but lacks any awareness of that fact.
Oh, no, I wouldn't stab you.
Look at this framing. She stood front and center, big, completely non-threatening smile. The best part of this framing, though, is that instead of backed into a corner, she's in the middle of a long corridor, meaning she has absolutely no reason to be proudly stood front and center like that. Any normal person, when confronted with someone that they've been killed by before, would probably, at the very least, be behind the chain on the wall. At least, any normal
Don't
person would
care.
have anything to hide. But look, she doesn't have anything to hide, see? And she promises all her secret places are sharp object free. Conversation with her is pretty obsolete since you're basically just trying to get her to admit that she's obviously hiding something. And she's just trying to get you to drop your guard and come closer. Eventually she'll get bored though and just do what she should have done the entire time. That being fucking kill you. Hidden in the flesh of her arm is Area 7, a Monster Hunter 4's ancestral step.
Oh my.
It only took 40 years.
Luckily, the chain is there to save
My
her precious
God.
little life. Oh wait, just kidding, Lamau. Every princess
No,
has
she
a
just cut off her
arc
arm.
being completed at the end of
Yes.
each chapter. Typically, it ends with either two things happening. The first being the princess gets taken by the grabby hands, and the second being, well, you die. Whenever you die, the world will reset, erasing the narrator's memory and nobody else's. The now dead player character will return as a voice. Whenever you go from one chapter to the next, it almost feels like the landscape and the princess are doubling down on the design elements and themes from the previous chapter. Take the razor, for example. The last time you were here, the cabin was still a cabin, right? It was still wood. It was very splintery, but it was still just a normal cabin. Here in chapter 3 of the razor, the sharp, splintery boards and wood are now replaced with sheet metal. It's dangerous in the same ways, except now even more so. Even the princess's design is now a lot more angular. Like, look at her shoulders. Those things could poke an eye out. She doesn't really have a lot to talk about this time, leaving you with a couple of panic options. There are some rational options, like appealing to her authority. Some irrational options, like just panicking because you've been here before. And there's the correct option. Flirt with a murderous sword arm princess. Come on. It's not like you have a lot of options here.
Oh, is that how it is? Yeah, okay, I feel that. I like you too. Neat.
After being flirted with, she will then kills romantically. You and you're left to bleed out in agonizing pain. Just kidding, you're brought back for some reason. And this process of killing you and you coming back for some reason happens again and again and again. We're thriving over here, boys. Eventually, chapter 4 bails you out, and when it does, it has the chance to iterate on its design once again. Now the environment is even more treacherous and angular, but that's nothing compared to what lay in wait in the basement. The princess thought she'd finally managed to finish you off for real this time, but because it looped back to the beginning, the princess was given one final trick up her very sharp sleeves. And bones. The Razor Princess's ultimate form is revealed. Cue the American YouTuber's epic and hilarious England knife crime meme. Like this video for
actual hell.
Bald Eagle in your Walmart stocking tonight. Her body explodes into a being of razor blades, all with one single goal: to rip you into tiny feathery ribbons. All the voices in your head fittingly freak out, and I don't really blame them, seeing as how they got here. They all start freaking out and talking over each other, but luckily, if you dig out your normal pills, you can make the voices gone. Now all that's left is you, the princess, and the lingering romantic subtext surrounding you both. What follows is an epic battle where you are no longer
The
being held back
actual
by
hell.
doubting thoughts, fighting to your fullest and truest potential.
She's
and
not a
straining to
sharp
blow after
monster.
blow,
I mean,
until
why
eventually
the hell
one
did he even
final
try
blow
to
the
flirt with
heart
that thing in
wins
the
battle
first
in your
place?
favor. She won't die though, instead she gets
Mhm.
taken somewhere else.
That's your only
This
option?
is cruelty and
Mm,
joy.
I'd rather
Like a
just
indomitable
die.
In the introduction
Okay.
bit to this video, I briefly covered the Tower Princess, the princess you face after getting your ass beat into a sad little feathery mound. She dwarves the player in size and is stood in front of a glowing stained glass window, almost angelic in a way. Able to control your every action and move, whether you want her to or not, this princess demands nothing but authority and respect. Also, because you just got every bone in
Really?
your
You
body,
put
the
Markiplier
voice of
on
the
your head?
Griffin will be
Oh
accompanying
shit,
you on this
he
journey, as
said
he is
that
a
word so many
total simp
times,
who can
it's
try
not
to
even
defy her,
funny.
but unfortunately the Broken, who shares control over your body, wants to obey her, probably in the fear of getting beaten to death again. Still, the hero has free will, and the narrator still urges you to slay her. Eventually, you'll stumble upon a crossroads where you're given the choice to not attack this deity, because, I mean, you know, she's a literal deity, or still holding on to the chance that maybe you can just pull it off. off. If you choose to
Really?
slay yourself, the narrator will interject as always, and the princess will notice your very strange hesitation.
This is supposed to be a dating sim, by the way.
Is that a person? No.
Yes,
It
you
used
heard
to
me
be a
right.
person.
She saw you click slay yourself, yet there you are, unslain. Head. She will look
I thought it
inside
just
you
slay
and
the
find that
princess.
pesky little voice
It's
I
of
did
the
not
it
expect
was
that.
labeled as a
implemented
dating
yourself,
sim.
placing his will with her own, ending you with a quick and lethal cut to the neck.
Damn.
But because the arc
I
ended
hit
with
my
your
charger.
death and the princess
Lovely.
did get taken away, you're brought back in the apotheosis. The trees look more reminiscent
I might
of
play
photos
this
than actual
game
trees, and the
myself
cabin now
later.
sits at the top of a mountain. The narrator and your clinically diagnosed
Can I
expert
watch?
hallucinations will share some light banter
Yes, you
before the
can.
cabin will
I can
literally
stream it on.
explode.
Yay.
The cabin,
What's it
instead of a
called
princess,
again?
holds a goddess. And
Discord.
I can't say how efficiently it's holding her,
I
considering she can just
yes, I can stream it on there.
do that. Also, can we take a moment to appreciate the animation and music of this shot? Nice. Her eyes have a
Beautiful.
holy glow. Her dress now wrappings with eyes and a crown of light.
That is a
Unlike
bunch of
last time when
eyeballs.
the window behind her was producing a glow, now she herself is glowing. Rocks and debris
Bunch of
orbit
eyeballs,
around her.
though.
She truly has
Yes.
become a deity. The tiny
All
blade in the tree
seeing.
almost feels like a joke, but yeah, you can still attack her. Though doing so won't exactly accomplish much. Either way, you get swept into orbit, flying who knows how high into the atmosphere before eventually the long quiet returns and she gets taken to the shifting mound. Yes, even this being of virtually infinite power is only a tiny piece of the shifting mound. The apotheosis capable of bending everything to
Yay.
will make a terrifying and divine heart. Alternatively, if you choose to slay the princess, the broken will continually commit self-sabotage and very brutally stab you, or himself. Something like that. Exercising that pesky little thing you call free will, you will annoy the princess, and she will get increasingly cruel in her means of disposing of you. But still, you have a dream. It doesn't matter how many windows into your lungs you make, the princess still beat you, and you gotta settle the score. Seeing your unbelievable
True.
willpower and determination, she'll actually become impressed. Offering you a place at her side, though not a very honorable place by her side, but a place nonetheless. She made a mistake though and left herself wide open. Despite the numerous holes in your body, you still have the strength to cut an enormous chunk out of her ankles, proving once and for all that you should never count out a short king. With the sudden, she drops to the floor, leaving her heart in a perfect stabbing position. She then punches you, and I think this frame is really funny because it's just this, leaving a feathery fist-shaped crater in the floor, absolutely obliterating any possible chance of your survival. But hey, you did it. The enormous princess slumps against the wall, her light fading forever, just as you do. Good job. Yeah, she's not very
You
pleased with
both
you. She's
died.
really not very pleased with you. The landscape is now completely organic. Bony trees, bubbling fat,
Corpse.
ligaments, fibers, sinew, and the like. The cabin is similarly grand like the
More
previous one with the
corpse.
Tower Princess, but has a lot of Fury designs baked in. Downstairs is the Fury Princess, who is now wearing her own flesh like a dress. Kinda raw.
Am
She
I?
hates you with every fiber of her being, and you are completely at her mercy here. If you try to fight, you die. Allow it, you die. Talk to her, you die. Talk to her again, you die. Be a baby, you die. Apologize, you die. Ask her to hear you out. Huh. Crazy. You die.
die.
Go on, go talk to her, bro. The worst she could say
Didn't-
is no.
How many options you get?
Exactly.
You
Come on,
die.
Defile a god, don't expect them to forgive you so easily. She wanted to make your death where she Tokyo Ghoul OP1s you last for an eternity, but luckily the grabby hands come in at just the right time to bail you out. You desecrated her. You made her use her hands. All her hate and pain was placed on your shoulders, and even though she split you open from the inside out, it was her who unraveled. There was passion and empathy in her misery, making for a burning heart. Now I know this is a horror game, but nothing could have even remotely prepared me for this next part.
Mm,
Damn,
Feel free to click
aka
away at
the
any
love
point, 'cause
game.
There are furries in this video game. If you enter the
There
basement
are
without
furries
the knife,
indeed.
wait until the narrator no clips the knife downstairs. You slay the princess,
Wow.
try to slay the princess again, and then give up. She will become a beast. Your conscience fades with the last
There we
thing
go.
you see being her glowing eyes from the darkness, like a curious animal. The cabin now looks like a more typical cabin that you'd think of out in the woods. By now you probably noticed a little recurring character, so to speak. Not the princess, not the narrator, but the mirror. The mirror shows up in every chapter besides chapter 1 without fail. and always under the same circumstances. It will also behave the same way every single time besides in the long quiet, where you can actually look into it. The first time you look into it, you'll see your reflection. Looking back at you as a little bird guy. I wanted to know more about the bird guy, so I asked the developers to tell me more about him.
Can you describe what kind of creature the player character is supposed to be?
Can we? Is it
I mean,
allowed?
we can talk in
Bird
some
guy.
detail. Yeah,
Bird guy.
vaguely a bird.
Bird of guy. Yeah.
Just a shadow bird guy.
I have a design for it. I'm like leaving it a little bit
Shut
loose
bird guy.
for people.
Bird
to
guy, indeed.
Do what they wish. Give him a beak. Not give him a beak.
Yay! He's also a furry.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm mostly leaving it up to them to kind of figure it out for themselves, but he has a lot more wings than people draw.
All right, I see.
Yeah.
And the entire background is also part of him, so
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna fix
Interesting.
myself
Second
though,
time you
having my
approach the
body
mirror,
ain't
see
facing
how
to
you
the
have
wall.
grown.
Okay.
The third, you wither, and the fourth, you unravel. The fifth and final time you
Fucking
get
hell.
into the mirror, it looks like nothing. Even the text says that you are nothing at all. But that's not right. Because what the mirror is reflecting isn't nothing, but instead the long quiet. Refocusing your
Yes.
gaze, you see it. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here now, aren't we? Ignore the mirror and go down into the basement to find the Beast Princess, a heap in the corner, disappearing from view before you have time to investigate. Yes, she had found a way to unleash herself, and you are trapped down here in her den. No, there's something about this.
It became
image
a
in
very
particular
much
that really
Look
sets me
at
off.
the
And I think
corner.
it's
The
because
eyeballs.
it ignites something in my primitive
Eyeballs.
monkey brain. A lot of horror nowadays puts humans in crazy, impossible scenarios like dead people walking or ghosts haunting us. But there is no horror as real or as terrifying as being hunted by a predator. Our earliest ancestors, even in their wildest dreams, could never
The
imagine
cat.
things like dead humans attacking them or being at
Oh.
night at a pizzeria. But one thing our ancestors were unanimously terrified of was being stalked by something in the dark. Being hunted is something instinctual to every living thing, and this single frame perfectly encapsulates the horror of being hunted.
Right
Nothing
there.
crazy, nothing flashy, just you,
Just
scared in the dark, with something terrifying that's keeping itself hidden from you. You are in the eyes of a predator, and an
A
opportunistic
predator
one at
coming for
that.
your
If you
num.
stand around and have a little internal dialogue with the voices in your head, she'll take the opportunity to strike, devouring you whole. If you predict her
She
attack
now
move,
became it.
you'll narrowly escape her. Well, you'll escape for approximately 8 seconds until she comes up with a new vantage point to lunge at you from. Perhaps you aren't defenseless. Perhaps you brought the Iron Claw down. If you do fight back, you'll surprise the princess and give her a cute little shoulder cut. Not that it's going to help you out very much in the long run, but it's better than being killed via crushing suffocation and digestion. Succumbing to the princess's claws will bring you to the den. This iteration of this beast princess is much more wild and unpredictable. The path to the woods now a lush rainforest, and the cabin is a cave. There's not even a door to the basement this time, an empty hole to the beast's den in its place. The den beast doesn't speak. Faced with the darkness, all you can do is take the gamble that it's there and plan accordingly. The den beast is feral. Nothing more.
She
than a
got
vicious
wings
predator.
now.
Only the lack of critical thinking and calculation could.
Does she
be
still
used
have
to
her
your
eye, though?
advantage. You can
Yes.
miraculously fight the den beast very gracefully, trading debilitating blows on one another, all leading up to that one point where the long quiet breaks up the fight. Interestingly, when the long quiet steps in, while not outright saying it, the den princess communicates with the player, asking, "Am I free?" She is a predator driven by instinct, forcing those around her to adapt. She will make for a bold heart. Even as she's being held by the shifting mound, she still wants to devour you. If you don't get out of the way in time, or for some reason just play dead, she will devour you in one piece, letting the oxygen deprivation and stomach acids do all the dirty work. Finally, digestion ASMR. Now you get to sit in agonizing silence where you either sit there and slowly watch your body dissolve or rip and tear your own way through the beast princess's organs. While in her stomach, you can strike up a little conversation with her, and she has some pretty interesting things to say. Like when she killed you last time, she tried to leave but wasn't allowed, stating,
But even then, it denied me freedom. You cannot fool me by draping yourself in decay.
Something or someone seems to be actively keeping the princess inside the cabin, and she can't leave if she's alone. She needs you. If you choose to get devoured right before finally dissolving, the beast princess will hurl you back out and sit there in the long quiet before being taken away by the grabby hands. If you claw and fight your way to the princess's heart from the inside, you'll get taken to one of the most convoluted chapters out of any of them, the Wild. It immediately starts off different, with the princess herself kicking off the narration. The Wild seems to know the answers. She knows the truth behind this cyclical prison that both of you are trapped in. While she doesn't exactly know what your and her destinies are supposed to be, she knows it lies outside of the walls of this prison. And with your strength combined, maybe, just maybe, you could get out. Yeah, I wonder what that unnatural thing could be. Something is imprisoning you both, keeping you confined and hiding the truth. Ahead of you is a network of pulsing nerves and fibers. She has become you, and you have become her. She seems to have a lot to say about the narrator. I mean, after all, now that she's part of you, she can hear the narrator. The narrator's the one that wants to pull you two apart, wanting you to slaughter her. The narrator will interrupt her and interject with his own logical reasoning. And if you don't know what's going on here, the narrator does make a lot of sense. What does being a path in the woods even mean? He also says vibing, so that's epic. The narrator will try appealing to your rational brain, while the princess will become increasingly scared. With you, she's finally whole. She's scared of being torn apart once again, and knows the narrator can convince you to do so. It's up to you if you want to listen to the narrator and gaze at the terror in your heart, or if you want to follow the princess's lead and bury it before it's too late. If you bury the terror in your heart, you'll become one with the princess, ready to break free from the prison you were placed in. The princess mentions that both you and her were placed into a cage by the narrator himself, but working together as one, you can break out of it again. Just remember though, the narrator still holds power above you. He vows to keep the princess at bay, even if he has to sacrifice himself and his world to do so. But with the distinct sound of breaking glass, you chip a hole and gaze into absolute reality. Gazing into it is heaven. You and the princess both belong there. But before you can do anything, the long quiet comes and separates you two again. The shifting mound describes the networked Wild as a shadow of her. They are similar to each other in so many ways, and will make for a curious heart, finally finding her true purpose. If you gaze into the terror in your heart, you remember what it was like to be an individual. You and the princess are separate, and you also remember that she killed you. Now all that's left is the princess looking sad and exhausted up in a tree, with an exposed heart and nothing to live for since you left. She's distraught that even after being complete again, you still decided you'd willingly remove yourself from her. But just because you have a knife and she's incredibly vulnerable right now doesn't mean you have to kill her. You can instead choose to simply cut her out. By the way, the wounded Wild's heart is the same as the networked Wilds. Same with the Tower and Apotheosis and Beast and Den. So moving forward, if it seems like I skipped something like that, just assume it's something similar. Thanks. Now, I know what you're thinking. Pake, this is supposed to be a love story. Isn't there a single path in this game that doesn't involve death or mutilation? And to that I say, no. But if you want to woo Milady and be really passive and nice, then you can. If you proceed into the basement without the knife, the princess will reflect your much less sinister intentions, and her tone and attitude will be a lot less sharp, now sounding more like a damsel in distress than whatever the fuck does this. Be as nice as you possibly can and make her think you're there to free her. The narrator will get upsetty spaghetti and try to control your body, continually resist his attempts, and eventually, the princess will have it figured out that there's conflict in your eyes, frantically stabbing you about 30 times before eventually she actually hits a vital organ, where you crumple to the floor like a dumb, stupid idiot. Because you were so nonviolent to her in Chapter 1, you get the least cruel princess, at least so far, the damsel princess. Completely pathetic, waiting for her dashing hero to come rescue her. Oh, how romantical. What's this? You brought the blade? Well, now that makes things interesting. Oh, you don't want to use it? Okay. Whatever makes you happy. What's that? You love her? Whatever makes you happy. You're gonna rescue her? Whatever makes you happy. Luckily, her dainty little princess arms are so small and ladylike that the chains simply can't even fathom the thought of being so elegant, restrained, and fall off. Why did I write this bit like this? Now that she's free from her shackles, now you can choose to go out
There's
and
the love
live with her
life.
somewhere. And she hits you with the classic,
Until there's more.
What do you want to do?
I don't know, that's why I'm asking you! Don't worry, guys.
Oh my god.
She only wants to make us happy, and she does so, or she says so, while becoming an increasingly low-effort sketch, before eventually the grabby hands can't take it anymore, because they appear and they take her away to Deltarune. Again, she is soft and delicate. She will make for a gentle heart. But wait, remember that knife? Shatter the Smitten's heart into billions of tiny glass shards and bury it in your love's chest, and then in your own. Boom. New route, new chapter. Awesome. This game has 2 characters, 3 if you count the narrator, and 800 if you count the voices in your head, both real and fictional. Some of the best comedy in this game comes from the pairing of different voices. For example, the Smitten and the Cold. Those 2 are a great foil for each other, where one is always so pompous and extra and dramatic and romantic, while the other one is so gloomy and distant. They make a great dichotomy. The Gray is like a specter, only this specter isn't a cute girl and is actually pretty freaky. She lures you into the basement so she can perform unspeakable things on your stupid feathery body. As Colonel Sanders once put it, you're gonna fucking burn, Lamau. Also, believe it or not, this isn't the first time I was put into an oven. My last job at a factory saw me and a friend step into an oven for cleaning. My god, that burned. This is why mentioning KFC in my comments will get you permabanned. And a cool reward will pop up on your doorstep in 1 to 3 weeks' time. The Burned Gray is a gray ghost that has had enough of the universe keeping you and her apart, so the intended solution is to simply cook herself and you in an embrace, so that way you fuse together. Lads, this is my final warning. If you don't want this to happen to you, please avoid the Hello Kitty girl. Now, I personally would go for it because that's like 2 whole weeks of bliss before my premature cremation, but if you actually have something to live for, I beg you. Anyways, you get cooked, and then the grabby hands take away your goth GF. God damn it. This princess is passion betrayed, but despite that, she loved you until her last moments. She will make for a bright heart.
Oh my goodness.
I see the prisoner as like a mirror route to the damsel. The only difference is that you take the blade at the beginning, prompting our favorite princess to become cold and untrustworthy right off the bat. She'll be a lot colder and sarcastic, but if you don't get intimidated by her mean girl attitude, it doesn't matter. You're always gonna die in the end, come on. On the damsel route with the inviting, bubbly princess, she clearly does not know how to kill someone. So when she kills you, she just repeatedly stabs you, hoping for the best. But here she does it like it's second nature to her. She does it with clinical ease. I love this shot where the princess is just kind of flatly staring at you. It's so funny for no reason. Wow, they really don't want her going anywhere, huh? But they still missed the chain on the right. What's this thing even for? I knew it. Every time you encounter the princess, it's always the same similar situation. Shackle on her right wrist, chain to the wall. There's one to her left that's broken for some reason, and instantly on your approach, it leaps for your neck and closes around you. It's almost like you belong in it. My god, unbelievable issue regarding skill. Now you have an eternity to sit here and think about how you could have done things better. But wait a moment, you see that grass and moss growing? You still can get out, you just have to wait long enough for the building you're in to decay enough for you to just brute force your way out. Look on the bright side, at least you have a really fun, bubbly, talkative friend to talk to and pass the time with. Eventually, after years of agonizing boredom, the roof collapses and you two are free. Good job. You did it. That's not the only way to end your fun with the prisoner princess. Princess? Heh. Like, comment, and subscribe while I continue my search for reasons to live. Getting near her is a dangerous game because she is just like Chapter 1 Tower Path. She's absolutely cracked. Trust me, the best way this ends for you is if you give her the blade and let her take things from there. Now that she's beheaded herself, you can then take her head as a reward. Her disembodied head being very grateful and willing to put things behind her. It's a new day. She's finally out. The possibilities for your life from here on out are endless. Just kidding, grabby hands, please. Take this thing away. It keeps talking to me and is still warm. This princess is cold and cynical, protecting herself when others failed. She will make for a clever heart. But wait, because this route parallels the damsel route in so many ways, does it mean it has a third chapter? Put the transition here. You're back to the gray with this one, only this time you have to be really insistent on killing the prison set. What? And this princess is by far the coldest, rawest, cruelest, meanest out of every single one of them, the Drowned Gray. This one chapter is so great from a horror standpoint and has 2 of the scariest scenes in the entire game. Torrential rain set the mood, completely opposite of our previous gray. The cabin bloating inwards, weighed in from the excess of water and rain. Then there's the princess herself, though. Instead of wearing a white dress, she dons a black dress. At the bottom of the stairs, you get one of the most gut-wrenching scenes. floating corpse.
Really?
face
Foxy,
down
I
in the
swear.
water.
This is
This
a
some people
freaking
right here.
fourth
Nothing
time
flashy,
you did
nothing
Foxy.
ooh, scary. Just you.
It seems we have a
desolate cabin
FNAF
face
fan.
Before you, the floating corpse of the princess face down in the water. I know. Listening
He
to
ain't a fan
YouTubers
of
about their
that,
opinions
but
on
he
certain
ain't-
topics
he ain't
and
a fan
sharing your
of
opinions from
Foxy.
YouTubers is like an
Exactly.
entire meme. But I really got to talk about every single frame that's about to show up in detail because these next few scenes are so good, so stomach churning.
She's drowning.
Life. I'm killing myself. First, you turn to see the drowned Gray looking cold as fuck up at the top of the staircase. Not a single word you say gets to her. She only wants to watch you suffer with cold, flat malice. Eventually, you have to swim. The basement is now a black void, and she floats looking down at you with that same uncaring stare. The perspective here is phenomenal, having the top of her head off the top of the screen. It makes you feel so low. Then you go under. She continues to coldly stare at you, now directly below her, as you reach up for help. When a creature dies and is preserved in water, the gases in your stomach, like hydrogen and methane produced by bacteria, will cause the body to swell up and bloat. They will become buoyant and float face down. The princess's completely lifeless body now has a hold on your leg, looking up at you with the same cold, flat malice that any underwater predator would share. Except this one god, he's so cool. It's pronounced Laggy Crust, by the way. Laggy. With one last look at the drowned Gray, you get pulled down into the deep, dark abyss. Thank God the grabby hands are here to bail you out. Unlike the burned Gray, who was filled with love and forgiveness, the drowned Gray was cold and vengeful to the very end. Jeez, that was dark. I think for a little palate cleanser, we should talk about my second favorite route, the adversary. And no, it's not because you can have this happen, I promise. Take the knife, have a squinting contest, and fight like a warrior. I hope by now it's been well established that the princess is, like, exceptionally more physically capable than you in every single way. So you probably know where this goes. You fiercely do battle until she hits a debilitating blow, obliterating your ribs, but in doing so leaves an opening for her chest, which you take. You both inflict fatal blows on one another and fall to the ground. Good job, team. 3 stars. I 3-starred your mom last night. The cabin is now made of heavy stone, and in the basement is... God bless. This princess wants to fight. She wants to feel your bones snap beneath her fists. She wants to feel the rush of fighting an
She's
opponent that
now
couldn't
a
enter.
demon.
She wants to challenge herself. She wants
Exactly.
to force herself through impossible challenges to grow.
I thought you
and
lost your
become stronger.
arms.
She's on her grind, and I respect
Yeah,
her
I
for that.
know. I
But
turned them
anyways,
off for now
fellas,
since we're just
anyone,
sitting
if
here
you see
watching
a
stuff.
gargantuan muscular person give you this
Need to
look, you should
charge
probably
them
do everything
anyways,
in
and
your
I left
power
them on
to not
all
be in
last
this
night.
situation. This is just a
off.
suggestion.
Oh,
If this were me,
shit.
I would accept my fate. This is one of the goofier routes in the game. Even though the princess is completely serious about wanting
You
to
know
put
which
you
route
into a
I'm
fine
going
pace,
first
when you
time
fight her,
now.
you can attempt to talk to her, or you can flee from her. Whatever you do.
Well,
do not
actually,
disappoint
I
her.
might
If you
go
do,
the
she will
turn
become
back
very
route
impractical anyway.
first.
If you
You
fight
get
her,
something special if you
and
do that.
you know what happens when you fight her. But if instead of fighting her, you opt to free her, then you're onto something. Chopping off her shackled hand will take you to the Eye of the Needle. Here she becomes even more draconian, living in a literal cave and being built like a tank. She beats you so hard that even if you survived, your great-grandchildren would still have the bruises. You never stood a chance, at least. Not down here. If you lure her out into the open with the blade in hand, you can... Give me a second. If you lure her out into the open with the blade in hand, and the hunted in your brain, gotten by carving a smiley face into her chest in Chapter 2, and experiencing the brain squeeze, you're given the opportunity to fight her out in the open. Tell her you trapped her, and then fight like a gladiator. Now you're finally giving her the fight she so desired from square one, finishing the fight with one final stab in the heart. You've won, and your entourage takes her away. The adversary in both iterations always wanted to grow, struggle, and fight. She sought out challenges to test herself, and when she passed those, she was hungry for more. Even in the hands of the shifting mound, she still tries to struggle. Awesome princess. Her attitude resonates with me, and also, she's hot. There, I said it. Excuse me, Pack. At the start of this game, it said it was a love story.
Exactly.
Smart. There is no love here. Brilliant observational skills, truly. First of all, it's pronounced Pake, you cretin. And second of all, if you want to smooch milady, then follow me. Go to the basement without the knife to build rapport, make her think you're breaking her out, and then when giving the chance, stab her. Congratulations, you made a desperate, defenseless woman trust you, and then shattered it in an instant, and are now dying on the floor, staring into her sad, betrayed eyes. Let's just hope that broken trust doesn't come back to bite you later. The cabin
Oh, it
now looks
will.
like it was shaped out of a living tree.
Yes, it's
The
gonna
only thing
bite you in the
separated is
ass.
the pristine blade on the tangle of vines. This princess is a goober, unequivocally bitter and sarcastic, calling your wimpy, antisocial ass out on the stairs. Also, she becomes a cat girl. Notice the overwhelmingly positive tag on the Steam page. This character is like the living embodiment of the colon 3 emo. Like, look at her. The witch is also a certified devious little creature, since the chain just falls off her wrist and she gets closer to the colon 3 emo. Since you betrayed her trust last time, she's been blessed with the ability to smell you. My god, that stank. More importantly, to smell your true intentions. Although, just because she can tell your true intentions now, she still is a living being that has the capacity for resentment. She does not forgive you for betraying her, and to be fair, I don't really blame her. If you try to leave in front of her, she'll bury her claws in your back, committing a dangerously based Omori reference, as your joint tumble down the staircase leads to a broken back and your early death. If you make her go ahead in front of you, she'll notice the knife, determining you are going to troll her with the knife, and sits there blocking the door. What a goof. Without you tagging along, she won't be able to leave the cabin, but you've hurt her, and she wants to be able to hurt you back. After she does a little bit of trolling, the Long Quiet appears and ruins her goofy little scheme. This is awkward. The shifting mound says that she is hope, marred by bitterness. She thought her suffering had come to an end just for you to commit the ultimate betrayal. She will make for a righteous and weathered heart. You can try and fight the cat girl, only to get your world rocked, before getting a gruesome scene of the basement crushing both you and her. She's still smiling until the end though. After all, she got to see you suffer as a result of what you did to her. This is also one of the ways to get taken to the wild. But if you really want to atone for your sins, you take the knife down to the basement and give it to her. Now I know what you're thinking, she absolutely hates us, is arming her a great idea? The answer, no.
No.
But in that moment she'll realize what she's done. She's sunk down to your level and immediately regrets it. She's right to apologize now. The door to your heart has been opened in the worst way possible, and now you're dead. An eye for an eye. The cabin is overgrown by thorny vines and bright red roses. Now that's interesting. The color palette of this game is consistently black, white, brown, maybe some yellow, and red in this. The color red is mostly reserved for yours and the princess's blood. But here, every rose is that bright red. Whatever could it mean? I looked it up on Google and found nothing interesting, so let me flex my master's degree in philosophy real quick. Roses are universally recognized as symbols of love. Their beauty and aroma are intoxicating to those whom they enamor. The bright red color a powerful signifier of the fires of passion and love. It could also represent yours and the princess's combined blood flow, now sprayed over thorns. Thorns of regret, betrayal, pain, suffering. Hear a consistent theme throughout this entire chapter. No matter where you go, no matter what you do, you and the princess just keep hurting one another. The cycle continues and continues with no end in sight, both trapped in this endless cycle of hate and violence, never quite cracking out of the cage, both desperately yearning for freedom, always getting to the end, seeing that precious light at the end flicker out, just as you watch the light in her eyes fade into empty shadows. Or it's a fucking red plant lying down in the basement is unable to tighten a single muscle without having the thorns cut through her. You're so confused, hurt, and scared. Don't even think about choosing another option that hurts her again, or else I'm coming for you. Promise her.
Throw that dude out the window.
That you never wanted to hurt her. And
He
that you
fucking
won't leave
bust
her
down
with her.
the door.
All it
That's
takes
what
is that
he
later
did.
She's doing everything to keep you. Cut her out of there since it's
I'm gonna bust through those windows.
romance in my visual novel. By the way, make sure you flirt with her while she's a witch, otherwise the smitten will not join you and you'll be sad and alone. The narrator will then begrudgingly narrate the kiss and you'll be left there, having finally done something right in your life. Congrats! For the first time in your life, you felt a woman's affection. I love that for you. A wall of vines appears behind you that you can cut through, but adorably, they will automatically pull away, just completely on their own if you decide to just step into it with the princess. How cute. Then we get eagerly pulled up the stairs, and the smitten my beloved says the most adorably poetic line.
Your nightmare is our dream. Whatever world would condemn star-crossed lovers like us to a cycle of violence and despair isn't a world worth saving. We'll weave something new together. Something better.
And now you and her can leave the cabin, living happily ever after. Just kidding. Grabby hands yoink her away and you're left sad and alone. Once again. God damn it. She had never truly connected with anyone. She built a wall of thorns to protect herself and never let anyone get close. But eventually she caved and realized what she'd become. She'd cautiously let someone else in, and it turned out to be the thing that finally set her free. She will make for a cautious heart. Why are both the plant-based princesses stemming from the witch so adorably emotional? As we've come to find out over these past experiences with the princess, she is really good at not dying, at least not without taking you down with her. But what if you don't even entertain the idea of chatting with her? What if you want to be a cold, ruthless machine? Your Honor, I was simply following orders. Don't chat with her, just stab her, and yay, you did it. She died. You did the title card thing. Yippee. Don't check for a pulse. No, don't worry, she's dead. Go back upstairs and claim your oh so glorious reward. An eternity of absolutely nothing. Woohoo. The narrator really pulled out all the stops with this one. Now you're in an empty void with absolutely nothing to do. Wonderful. It's so boring, in fact, that I honestly recommend that you should kill yourself now. Upon your return, you see a spooky ghost. And is it just me, or is this form actually so adorable? When she wants to be. She requests safe passage out of the cabin via possession, and provides absolutely nothing in return, but to be fair, you do owe her. Even though she can fly or phase through the walls, it seems when she does so, it just loops back to the cabin, proving that there really is something otherworldly to this cabin. It's not just whoever chained her up here that's keeping her here, but the building itself. You can try to attack her again, but Lamau, try again. Okay, if it didn't work last time, why would it? Oh. The Spectre, similar to the Wild, is one of the few princesses that has some kind of awareness of the greater picture. She's not sure what exactly it is, but deep down she can feel it. Something is calling for her, and all that it takes to get there is you. She asks you for permission to possess you. If you tell her no, she'll freak out about the abandonment, frantically float back and forth, still freaking out, phase through you, give you this look, and game end you herself. Alternatively, let's say you hate bones. You can destroy them and have the same exact thing happen. If you be nice, she'll possess you and become another voice in your head, now able to interact with the narrator and other voices. Curiously, she comments on the voices, describing them as shards of broken glass on the floor. I wonder. She also calls the narrator more of a memory than a person, similar to how the tower called him an echo. The princess, now holding control over your body, walks you to the exit. And while doing so, we get a lot of dialogue that contextualizes a lot of different things. The narrator holds quite a bit of power, a lot more than he wants you to know, and a lot more than he lets on. He's trapped both you and the princess in a looping purgatory he divided you two. And while he very clearly hates the princess, he can't kill her. That's where you come in. The princess is quite an extraordinary being, and the narrator knows that. Her continued existence means death for everything. An ordinary living being would not be able to lay hands on something as powerful as her. But maybe you can just split her into two parts and convince the other half to kill her. If he couldn't kill her, then perhaps she could kill herself, or perhaps a part of herself. And that's where you come in. The player. When the long quiet returns, the princess leaves and states that this is where she was meant to be. The grabby hands take her away. The Spectre dreamt of a life outside the cabin, the longing giving her the capacity for kindness. She will make for an understanding heart. If you decide to be an aggressive little creature, you can actually cut her neck open, and all that understanding in her heart will immediately be replaced with bitterness and hatred. She becomes a wraith that will twist the fuck out of your ankle and possess you without your consent. The wraith somehow also manages to just boot out the narrator. Not that it really matters though. The grabby hands find her quickly. All the loneliness and understanding in the Spectre has been turned to seething. Wait, yo! She gave up on relying on others, so she did all the dirty work herself. She will make for a driven heart. Now, what if you're playing this video game and you are a total baby? You want to find an in-between, do you? You don't want to make the narrator sad, but are too squeamish to maul the princess? Here's what you can do. Go see the princess and leave again. Boom, you did it. You found the middle road. Good for you. Maybe somebody else a little more confident will come along and deal with this problem. Look, the narrator is in your head, so maybe he'll be okay if you just, you know, stayed here and made sure she didn't leave. I'm sure everybody's gonna be happy in this situation. God, you really like being told what to do, don't you? You want to listen to him, but you're also too scared of what the princess would say, now aren't you? You poor thing, trying to make it so that everyone's happy, so you don't make any decisive actions when you need to the most. It's a shame, really. Well, you were huddled in the corner thinking about the defiant version of yourself that's
Pulling everyone out on that one.
on Reddit
Very
or
savage.
X.com. The princess was busy specking
Yep.
a total organ failure, and you're patient zero. She looks at you, and you die. Rest in piss. Good riddance. Sorry. Why do I feel like I'm being watched? The Nightmare
'Cause
Princess is
you
what
are.
happens when the princess picks up on your fear of taking a strong stance on anything and is absolutely intoxicated with terrorizing you. She dances around and hides behind the Dream music video that he deleted and laughs at you. Keep in mind, she's still spec'd into total organ failure, but thankfully, our boy Paranoid is here to help keep your systems up and running. Let's just hope he can keep it up. You have the option to try and kill the Nightmare Princess, and going for it. Yeah, you did it. Now what? Well, let's talk about this little thing called starvation. That's right. It's about time the Pig video shows a picture of Devil Joe. God, I love this guy. So, you die. Welcome to the Wraith again. May I interest you in a crippled ankle? But you still have a chance to defy this spooky bitch. Select Remain with your Nightmare and see what happens next. She calls you out for being a little goo goo gaga baby. That's faking it till you're making it. And does an epic face reveal.
Hi, my name is...
Oh my goodness.
You get more jump scared by the existential dread than the actual face, and I think that's the worst kind of jump scare. And then you die. Which brings us straight to the moment of clarity. Every voice from every timeline is now here with you, but the cabin is all wrong. The Nightmare Princess is now in a hole. Love that for her. Most of this chapter is just watching her crawl to you before she eventually makes it out. There surprisingly isn't a lot that goes on with this princess. She just kind of crawls out of the pit of shame and then gets gobbled up. Still, the design is really cool. I can only imagine this is what it feels like to hold someone's hand. Also, geez, look at how tall. Girl, you want to terrorize the world? How about you get on the court and get my rebounds? Okay, this segment was confusing as hell to write for, and it's kind of led me to putting off this video just because there's so much to unpack with the stranger route, so I'm just gonna keep it simple here. In the event that you're an unfathomably based Giga Chad and don't care about what the narrator says, you can just turn around and walk away from the cabin.
That's the one I want to do for...
It'll lead you to the cabin, but don't let that
because
stop
it
you.
does something
Keep
special
ignoring
at the
until
very
the
end.
The world itself doesn't want you to keep avoiding this place,
If you
so
do
builds
it.
a giant wall around the woods. Just so you have no choice but to go into the cabin. Yeah, this is trippy. There are 3 sets of stairs going to the basement. The hard, spiky path, the headache middle path, and the hazardously easy, squishy path to the right. It doesn't matter. It all takes you to the same place regardless. Yo, why is she looking at me like that? Apparently you were in the basement the entire time, you just hadn't realized it yet. Princess seems normal at first, but conversing with her creates chaos and disorder. She fractures into different versions of herself. One is sad and gloomy, one is happy and bubbly, and one is threatening and malicious. Note the similarities between this princess and the others. It's like it managed to pull every iteration of princess into one spot. They then converge into one being that looks weirdly adorable, and I think I'm the only person on the planet that holds that sentiment. Look at this. It looks like a dog if you're pulling its skin forward on its face. So dumb and cute. And dumb. These ones are contradiction, stretching into infinite shapes and paths. It will make for a rich and vibrant heart. They don't know what they are, but now they are the shifting mound. So, you've seen quite a bit at this point now, haven't you? All the paths, routes, all the twisted deaths, all the pain and suffering, but also all the love and compassion, just for it to be torn from your grasp in the end. What was the purpose? What's going on here? Upon returning the 5th vessel to the shifting mound, all the rest of the perspectives will find their way back on their own, leaving you in the long quiet with the mirror. Looking upon the mirror, you see nothing. Or is it nothing? Is it you? You focus your gaze again, and the figure of a raven appears.
I think you know what I mean.
This is the truth. The narrator here is an echo of a person, one that's created a construct designed for you to slay the princess. A construct that would reset itself every time you fail, or every time you die. He tucked himself into the construct as a guide for you. His ultimate goal was to have the princess get slain, and to have you passively exist for the rest of eternity. But eternity, even to someone like you, can be too much. You are the Long Quiet, a god. The narrator saw that everything was coming to an end in his world, so he tried to erase death with a shifting mound, the princess. He couldn't kill the princess by himself, so he split her into two, freed you from your shackle, and tasked you with killing her, since he couldn't do that himself. The narrator was once a mortal that is now an echo, trying to keep you from bringing about the end of the world. Every time you failed, every time the shifting mound appeared, that's one new world that's been damned to extinction. It is very clear that the narrator is desperately afraid of death, something that you could never understand. You've only stirred to consciousness when you made a new game. You, as a character, have no concept of death. You don't know the permanence. You're a god. Gods don't die, at least they shouldn't. Whenever you died, you would wake up in a different timeline, a different chapter. But while the fear of death is justified, it is still necessary. The shifting mound isn't just death. The narrator says it himself. She's change. She's transformation. She's growth. She's beauty. Without death, life would have no meaning. The narrator recognizes this, but he has a dream of a burdenless, forgetful, dull, but happy life. Not too dissimilar to the oblivion that he placed you in whenever you followed his instructions. As you talk with the narrator, the glass of the mirror breaks and the echo fades away. Now, this is just entirely...
Half of my body is now in bed.
I can tell.
But I think when the narrator made you, he put a little
The fact that we both
I was
looked at each other at the
uncomfy.
same time was fucking hilarious.
Not because you have fears and emotions in your head, but your responses to situations always have logic and rationality. These are things a mortal would think and consider. He gave you humanity, perhaps as a means of getting you to actually do the deed of slaying the princess. But in the end, he would always disappear. And the moment the final fragment of glass shatters, you see yourself where you are, the Long Quiet, an infinite god. Now, at the heart of things, it's time to make the final decision.
I can finally see you, and you can finally see me.
The shifting mound is infinite. She's not death, but she does contain it. She's everything. Now she wants you to join her in godhood. At this point, she's far too powerful to be killed, so the most you can do is try to convince her not to. Doing this means bringing back every previous perspective that you and her shared. And because I thought it would be interesting to read through them all, I gathered them all here.
A web of nerves, lain upon a web of nerves, lain upon a web of nerves. The shade of a beautiful beginning we can never return to. You knew me, and I knew you, even more than either of us know each other now. And you chose to pull apart that weave. But you did not choose to end me. We were still one, but we were also separate, and we were free. We were as we are. Will you excise that part of yourself now that you see me from yet another angle?
When you became whole again, you cut yourself out and found the princess, but you never killed her. Instead, you cut her out too.
There goes your ink cross.
Exactly.
You never need to fear losing your physical body. All the pain, all the suffering, it's only temporary and paves the path for something different, something new.
I kill you, you kill me. Back and forth we go, faster and faster and faster. I kill you, you kill me. Hollow eyes watch from the dry corners of a memory. A home built on all the futures that were supposed to be. preserved until the moment of reunion. The fire of the heart sets it all ablaze. I kill you and me. An ending is a passion that can only be expressed with a moment in time. It is a seed for a new beginning. To linger on an ending is to rob it of its life. And without me, all that's left to do is linger.
Nothing that ever lasts forever can truly be beautiful. Only people or objects that are ephemeral or flawed can ever have any meaning. Note the difference in this line between the two grays.
You are devoured. Pray for something bigger than you that stalks and slinks in shadows. But even after the pain of defeat, you return. The dance is its own truth. It is the movement that matters, not the pause you mistake for an ending.
You are not an animal. You're a god, but for some reason you're still holding on to your mortality.
You are weightless, suspended in the gravity of an idea that threatens to consume you. And you are alone. A tiny island caught between the death of the old world and the birth of the new. But alone is not.
Did we not see the part that she's so giant?
Yes.
When you were confronted with my vessel's apotheosis, you chose against all odds
She's so big.
to defy me.
She
Hold
is.
on to your inner self with all its flaws, even in the scorching light of my divinity. Without me, there are no externalities to resist, and it is struggle that carves meaning into consciousness.
Would there ever be any sense of passion, pride, or accomplishment if you never had to struggle or fight for anything?
Your betrayer tries to sink into your body, and another, and another, and another. Do I miss your heart because I can't stand to see it go? Love melted into skepticism, and you pulled back layer after layer after layer, until all you were left with was the knowledge that you did not know me. You sought the truth then. Will you hide from it, now that it is within your grasp?
All she wanted was to please you, to make you happy. She had nothing to want then, but this time is different. She wants something greater, something divine even. She wants you to embrace the truth.
You are divine. Pray for something bigger than you that stalks and slinks in shadows. Within, you are tightly bound and choke on heavy air as acid burns its way into your pores. A nest of things devouring within things devouring. But even when dissolved, you gifted me a life. Perhaps it was fear that drove you. Perhaps it was compassion. But the outcome of an act matters more than its intentions. There is a natural order to the cycle of things sustaining things. A world without sustenance is a world without relationships. And it is our relationships that give us form and substance.
A world without her is a world without sustenance, a boring world with nothing.
A boundless torrent of blades cut you from boundless angles. You are a body. You are gory ribbons. You are a body again. And you feel all of it. On it goes until your bodies are not your thoughts, are not you. Alive, dead, alive, dead, alive, dead, then alive and dead and alive and dead all at once. You learn to put yourself away and to follow the flow of reality. And you used it to rise above me. You died countless steely deaths, and you lived countless short lives, and yet it is all so far behind you. Unjust impossibilities pushed you to become something you would never have been without them.
Even in
I
your
lost
case,
my
if you never would
hands.
have died, you never would have
Oh,
seen the
lovely.
shifting world. You never would have seen your reflection. You never would
They-
have met
they
the
both
shifting
died on me.
narrator.
Oh.
Not really,
You would
but
have seen the
they're
truth,
they turn
as the
off on their
shifting
own.
mind puts it.
Were we self-destructive? Or did the beauty
Well, I
of our
mean, it's
past reach
fine.
beyond the
It's
shadow?
almost over at this point, though. Unless we want to see
Check
the...
my computer.
Self-loathing
what the creators had to say about this thing.
You are terrified of a power so
They had an interview
far
with them.
beyond you that it strips the meaning from your every action. But at the feet of that power,
What?
there are parts of you cannot help but burn away.
There's they had a create an interview with both of the creators of the game.
When I proclaim
So it's about 30 minutes long.
placed by my side in my new creation,
Do you want to see it?
gladly took it.
Okay.
Without me, there is
It's going to happen after this part.
It is hope that carves meaning into consciousness.
When coming face to face with something far greater than yourself, your will gave way, but you were given something new to look forward to.
The masses mold you. There is no beginning to them, nor is there an end. There is only the flood of bodies. And every moment you hold every possible sensation at once, and then you hold them all again. And in the end, you returned it to me. For a brief moment, you were everything. A chaos that needed ordering. But without chaos, there is no reason.
Without all the different intersecting paths of life, what chance is there for change? Sure, you'll be safe from bad people or bad things, but that means you're left without finding new perspectives, new venues. Without chaos, there is no order.
Brutality splashes you against the walls, but with stubborn defiance you rise again. And with the dance of our conflict, I was brought somewhere new. Without you, my world would have been so small. Do you remember the moment of your triumph? Do you remember the feeling of your blade finally cutting me down? My defeat was a gift. Without obstacles to overcome, we stagnate into nothing.
When we throw ourselves into hard, difficult situations, be it mental, social, or physical, we're forced to learn and grow from it, becoming stronger in a sense, but if we stayed where we're comfortable, we never get the chance to develop or grow. When we avoid challenge, we waste our potential.
To question everything is to deny proof of the reality that lies in front of you. To live alone within the caverns of your mind is to trap yourself in them forever. But you did not live alone. You found me, and we held trust in each other for no reason than to believe in something that wasn't us. Cold skepticism turned to liberation, but it required a journey to blossom. Though you have blossomed, do you have no more journeys left to make? What of those in the spaces beyond? Would you erase the path ahead to hold everyone still?
Even after all the hostility, you spared her and freed her. You never would have done that without forgiveness.
Is a person? Is it their body? Is it all of their body? Pluck the eyes, peel the skin, strip the tendons, mince the meat, grind the bones. When it is all gone, do you still have who you started with? A person is not a body. Death is a transformation into something new. It is only bodies that fear it.
Without death, you can't make way for new life.
A web of nerves, laid upon a web of nerves, laid upon a web of nerves. The shade of a beautiful beginning we can never return to. Where did you end and I began? When you felt what it was to be me, we held on to each other and pierced the veil of truth. Will you abandon that curiosity now that we are no longer joined in physicality?
When you two were one, you saw the truth together. Here you have the chance to fully embrace it, but now you're resisting. Also, I like how this bundle of nerves is supposed to be your eyes. I think that's a good touch.
A trick behind your back and a trick behind mine. We dance, revolving and revolving around each other, but forever stuck in place. We both move, and yet we both don't. For each of us watches the other instead of ourselves. But forever is not forever. I move and you react, and both of us break the other. But broken is only a moment in time. To change is to hold the potential to rise above. Would you limit yourself to what you are now?
Or would you like to see what you might become tomorrow?
You cannot be better than you are today without change, and nobody else can be.
A shiver passes through you as unseen fingers, cold as the grave, dance across your skin. They remember the violence you inflicted on them, and yet they do not return it. I offer you a path to your redemption, and you take my hand in yours. You felt the pain you caused another, and you were willing to sacrifice everything you thought was used to set me free. Without sin, there is no redemption.
She found it in herself to forgive you. You found it in yourself to accept her. Also, why is the Spectre so cute?
Goodness, he's stimping over the cuteness.
Exactly.
But the most terrifying thing of all is to leave one's heart unshared. You are the only thing like me, and I am the only thing like you. Could you bear the weight of an eternity alone? Do you dare to shape a reality of solitude and thrust it on creation?
Sharing your heart is terrifying, and now you're given the opportunity to share it with a god, your other half. In doing so, you'll erase the universe and go with her into the rest of eternity. But if you refuse to share your heart and slay her, you'll be alone in creating a universe on your own.
A thought is a vine, and some thoughts nurture thorns that bleed the soul, an endless growth that blots your vision and strangles your trust. When I succumbed to myself, you patiently stood by me and cut the thistles that rooted in my skin. Your compassion is what freed us both, but compassion is a thing that must be nurtured, and you cannot nurture that which cannot change.
Some thoughts constrict your movement. Some thoughts tear at your skin. But you found compassion to cut those thoughts out of her mind and off her body. That compassion didn't just appear to you. It happened when you forfeited the blade and spared her when she was at her lowest point. Without change, you never would have done that. With that section over, I'd like to make it clear that what each iteration of the princess says depends on what you do in that specific chapter. I would show every single varying response from each individual princess, but in the interest of making it so this video isn't 10 hours long, I think I'll just leave you with the basics. You get the gist of what they're trying to say here. If you do want to see those extra lines of dialogue, I would suggest go play the video game. Tell me what it's like to try.
I'm going to try to get different things than what they got.
Sword out of spite. Well, I guess it's more of
That's
a
gay.
dagger than a sword, but you get what I'm trying to say here.
Although I can't
Continue
promise
to debate
anything.
The shifting mound, you'll hear a familiar voice. No, not the narrator, he doesn't exist. The hero comes up with a plan. Doing the narrator's job, he takes you back to the cabin. Inside waits the princess, now a rational human and not an egomaniacal god. And this is where we start getting into the endings. If you don't want to kill her, you can do what you always did when you wanted to start over, and die. This starting you back at the very, very beginning. Chances are you've probably been here with the princess in this very room at the end, and will continue to loop forever. If you do the title card thing, you'll be left there with all the voices that you've acquired on the journey, building a new universe from nothingness. Probably one without pain, one without death, one without struggle, or one without any change. Hey, at least you did what the Echo wanted. If you give in and embrace godhood, the Shifting Mound will accept you with open arms and dance with you into the sky to the tune of this game's banger soundtrack. Now, before I get into what I think is the best ending, at least from a human perspective, let's talk about the worst possible ending. One that is a little more complicated to get to. If on the second chapter of the first path you refuse to go meet the princess, having not been able to meet the Shifting Mound and promising that you'd bring her vessels, the grabby hands will appear and take you. Frustrated that the glass surface of your soul is already filled. Note that there's no verbal words spoken. I read these as if these are like feelings or things I just know shared with me via the Shifting Mound. This must be what the princesses see whenever they are taken. Continuing to do so makes the Shifting Mound even angrier to the point of spamming chat. If you have the cold with you when you're taken away, he comments on how it feels.
Discord
like
sound.
It
The
is.
Discord sound.
Yes.
Why?
Returning to the long quiet,
They
which
try
is
to make it
you.
entertaining.
B, the long quiet being really cold.
And
which
the
is
fact
something
that they
the
did
princesses
indeed
all
spam
seem
the
to comment
chat
on whenever they're taken
makes
away
it
by the
even
grabby hands.
funnier.
Nothing incredibly important. I just thought it was neat. The third time the
What?
shifting mound
If you keep
recognizes a pattern, it is
saying
terrifying,
the same
incredibly
thing over and
desperate.
over and
If
over
you're in this
again,
world,
that's
you
just
could be worse than
spamming chat at
this.
that
Look at how
point.
much pain you ignoring the plot of the game puts the shifting mound through. The closest word the game can use to describe it is agony. The fourth time the shifting mound gives up, she doesn't want to see you. The fifth time, yeah, the final time her feelers pull you into oblivion. She loves you, even though you made the wrong decision. From there you exist. At least, you exist for as long as you want to. No matter what happens, both the long quiet and the shifting mound will inevitably fade into nothingness. The world has ended. It doesn't exist. Neither do you, and neither does the princess. All that's left is nothing. Good job. You did it. At any point in your journey, you can return from the path of annihilation and play the game as usual. Just do your best not to bring the princess back incomplete. That's the worst possible thing to have happen. And finally, if you join the princess down in the basement of her heart, you can talk with her. She's no longer chained to the wall and is free. Take her hand and lead her up out of the basement. You get the chance to tell her you love her, then open the door. Forget completely about godhood and live the rest of your lives together as mortals. And so, that was Slay the Princess. All in all, we have incredible art, amazing story, exceptional music, and dude, it's just good. And I know for a fact that if you yourself watch this video and play it for yourself, you'll get a completely different experience than I. So to cap off this video, I'm going to be putting a little interview that I held with the developers at Black Tabby Games. I don't really have the energy left to go through and edit super hard of that section, so if you're not interested, then I understand. Thank you for watching up to this point. I appreciate it. Feel free to join the Discord. I just made it. This is the first video that I made after I made the Discord, so if you want to join, come on over. If you like this video, then consider becoming a channel member. I've been considering making YouTube my full-time job, so a little extra, financial help would go a long way. I'd greatly appreciate it. And in return, I'll give you some exclusive stuff as well, like a special badge by your name that lets me see your comments faster, exclusive emojis, stuff like that, early access to videos, and member-only streams, as well as having your name featured at the end of my videos. So far, I only have 2 members, so the end screen for this video is probably gonna look a little bit silly, but oh well. I'm also on Twitch, maybe, if I feel like it. So that's enough shilling. Enjoy the interview! Alright, this entire game is hand-drawn, right?
Yeah.
How many pages is that?
I think it's like
There's like 3,300 assets in the
yeah,
game.
it's, hold on a second.
3,300 all hand-drawn?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Oh yeah, hold on, should I tilt that top shelf that has those giant
Yo, that's
files?
that's the Slay the Princess drawer.
Yeah.
Awesome. How much time was spent just writing and revising the story for this game?
That was kind of faster. So we came up with the initial idea in May of last year. Worked on that for a couple weeks to get the first demo out, and then we had to take like a 4 or 5 month hiatus, and a combination of finishing the 4th episode of our other game, and then chilling out from burnout after that.
Yeah, chilling.
Chilling.
Yeah.
And then there was maybe another 3 or 4 months of writing afterwards. So
I see.
About 5 months on the writing side. It was pretty fast.
This is a question coming from my Discord. Was there more planned to be done with the Stranger route? Because I've heard that one spent some time in development limbo.
Yeah, so there is more to the Stranger route that very few people have found. I'm not sure if you have, but if she is the first princess you do on an entire playthrough, you get a different ending in the game.
Like ending, like at the very end?
At the very end,
it's a flavor of
it's,
an ending.
well, it's a flavor,
yeah.
but it's very different. I mean, it has an entirely separate set of art assets. There's different dramatic arcs. So it's like the end after you talk to the shifting mound. If you just keep pushing, you go back to the original cabin, and then you meet the first princess that you met in your run, which in most cases is either the one you met after taking the knife downstairs in chapter 1, or the one you met after going downstairs without the knife. So if the Stranger is your first princess, then you return to her cabin, the voice of the Contrarian is also there, and then she's the one that you encounter when you go down.
Oh man. All right.
So there's like actually,
I want to try to
like,
get that.
the ending
See
involving
what it
her
is.
personally my favorite in the game.
Okay.
There's some meat to it. It's just uncommon. It's uncommon knowledge.
All right. What are your guys' favorite princess?
So my favorite, it's hard to pick. I think Tower's up there for me. Tower was a lot of fun. Drawing that big of a person is really interesting.
Yeah.
And then Nightmare is fun personality-wise, and also the witch reminds me of my cat. So those I think are my top 3.
That's why she's a cat.
Kitty.
That's why she attacks you.
She's just like my cat. The beast is like my cat when it's nighttime.
Yeah. I think overall,
Bunch of picture, just one picture of the cat popped out of nowhere.
Exactly.
As well. A lot of that is trying to figure out like what counts as a favorite. So it's like if you're just pulling from the chapter 2 ones, does the chapter 3 princesses that are accessible from that chapter 2, did they count as part of the chapter 2? Because I like both the wild and the thorn a lot, and you can get to both of those from the witch.
Yeah.
Very fond of the stranger again, mostly because of the ending nobody knows about. And then I don't know. I like all of them. I think the Nightmare and Razor are both a little undervalued right now in terms of popularity survey results.
Yeah, I love Razor is my personal favorite just because she's crazy the way she like kind of hides her true intentions, but terribly. So
yeah, she was the last one that we did in terms of chapter 2 stuff. So I think that's why her route gets like a little more on the meta side and a little more like what wacky things can we do that are still left that we haven't done.
But I forgot, I also have another favorite. The Wraith was my favorite to draw. That one was a lot of fun. So
oh yeah,
I have 4 favorites.
There you go.
I see. I see. How do you go about adding humor to a psychological horror game?
It's an instinct. We can't help it.
Yeah, I'm probably more of a comedy person than a horror person. Abby is both, but she's also very horror-y and pulled me in that direction. So I think like a lot of what works well of the push and pull of the directions each of us want to go in, where it's like we're generally moving towards the same place, but I'll pull it a little more to the joke side or the like romance side, and Abby will have flesh melt off.
Yeah, there was a very different way that this could have all ended, like the big ending.
Yeah.
The idea was much more in the let's disarm all of this humor direction, and I was like, we're not doing it.
That was a rough draft that lasted for a day because I was stuck on that scene.
It was a good start, but yeah,
it worked.
Does that mean like it was about to have a much more humorous ending, I guess, or a much darker ending?
You're talking about the first draft of like talking to the narrator in the mirror, right?
Yeah.
So like the actual ending was always set for what it was with like that encounter with the awakened princess, but the exactly how the final conversation with the narrator went through like quite a few iterations as we tried to find the right voice for it.
Yeah.
I think early on, the one Abby's talking about was like just sort of a concept where it wasn't really a singular being who built the construct, but it was like a civilization-wide effort, and you know, you encountered somebody who barely knew what he was talking about, who was like running part of the machine. We abandoned that quickly, though.
Out of all the voices, which one was the most fun to write for?
I liked writing for the Broken.
You're the only one who likes the Broken.
He's a funny little guy.
I mean, he serves a purpose.
Yeah. He's the worst
He's
one.
the worst
but I
one.
love him for that.
I think the Opportunist was maybe my favorite to write for because he's such a little shit.
He fights for the winning side.
Yeah. Just constantly switching teams. being transparently skeevy, but no one can do anything about it. And then the Cheated was also fun. He was a late addition. Originally, the Razor Root had the voice of the Flinching, who was mostly scared about being stabbed to death again. And that had too much of an overlap with both the Paranoid and the Hunted and the Broken. Where it was just like, him existing meant that all three of those felt like they were less uniquely flavored, and then it didn't leave a lot of room for that root to be interested, so we leaned more into the you get there by succumbing to bullshit route, and that voice was very fun to write for.
I see. My favorite princess, the Razor Princess, becomes a giant cool monster sword thing later in the story. And I gotta ask, what's the inspiration behind her becoming that?
It's sort of I mean, a lot of the princesses have kind of these levels of becoming more and more of what you see them, so, I mean, endlessly she just keeps cutting you to death with blades, so it's just the culmination of someone whose only intent is to ever hurt you, so all she is the hurt and the little essence of her that she is protecting with all of the violence.
She's also probably the root that's closest to one of the very early of having like the central meta narrative. You stuck with a single princess and then kind of saw that whole story through to the overarching climax where like she awakens to godhood, but like she's more directly shaped by your actions. There were a few reasons that we moved away from that. One, if every route was like that, they would get very samey. It would be boring.
Yeah.
There's also just like exponential branching issues there where, right, like each standalone princess, like in terms of her chapter 2 and then her chapter 3 is like as much, if not a little more content than the first chapter of the game. So it's like if we kept going and trying to add more stuff to each of them, that would have been impossible to finish. And for the Razor, that also gave us an opportunity to, since you're only doing it once, kind of rein it in and make it about like that essentially exploration of the infinite until there's nothing else to explore anymore.
A way we got around a lot of that structuring with making sure that there was still a lot of variety is we did the fusion princesses. So that helped a lot, where there were different flavors going into them. You get different voices. She acts a little different depending on it.
Do 3 ways from the adversary and 1 way from the tower. The wild, which you can get to from the witch and the beast. The gray, which is barely a fusion because it's kind of
it's two entirely separate
factors.
Yeah.
You can get there from the damsel and the prisoner, and the last one, the wraith, which was the nightmare inspector. Yeah, so it's like in that original draft, there probably would have been more points of crossover, but again, that just muddies things rather than painting a clear picture.
Yeah. Can you describe the look?
You don't know about the look?
Yeah, everyone knows.
Everybody's unanimously favorite princess, the Thorn Princess, or the Trust Issues Princess, begins holding the blade. Why doesn't she cut herself out of the thorns if she has a blade?
So, in the script, I was envisioning it as a situation where the way the thorns were pointing, she would not be able to do so.
I see.
I think for artistic clarity, it was easier to draw her the way Abby drew her.
It was also the last route that I drew, and I had a few days to do with it.
Yeah.
I think it turned out well.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very happy with it.
Yeah. And then in practice, I think like she is, again, so much about trust issues, so afraid of being hurt, that she's in a position where she's not going to do anything. She's just going to cling to something that she thinks will make her safe. But to make any decision on her own would, in the short term, just hurt her more, and she can't trust anything.
What was the process of choosing how to iterate on the designs of each princess? Like how the beast becomes the den, or how the adversary becomes the eye of the needle?
well, this is more about like how we decide what an emotion is through a decision, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the just intuitive thing of the feeling that is now between the two characters, kind of feeding into what the design looks like. So the Wraith, for instance, for the one that was the most easy to design, is just a ghost because you kill the nightmare, or you're already dealing with a ghost and you kill the ghost again, or are killed by the ghost, and anger, betrayal. So just going with kind of a more violent, scary ghost versus a cute one like the Spectre, or just Grey Lady like the Grey. So
yeah,
just kind of going by cultural expectations for it, putting my own spin on it, just drawing it over and over again until I could figure out a shape that felt really good for her, that still felt like the princess and felt like the princesses that she came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then some of them, like you mentioned, the Eye of the Needle, are sort of the logical next step or escalation. So like when you go from chapter 1 to chapter 2 and start the adversary, right? She's like bigger, she's tougher, she's meaner, she's more muscular.
Yeah, the things that were unique about the second chapter princess just cranked right up.
Right. So the tower gets much bigger. The adversary gets more muscular, more draconic. Something that feels even more enemy-like, but also like you're even further outmatched than you are in the adversary route.
And then things like the fusions, like the Fury there, I feel is a pretty good fusion because you have the demonic parts of the adversary that don't quite go on to Eye of the Needle, where she's more like a dragon, and those get funneled into the Fury, where she's much more demonic. And then, of course, the tower is like a fallen angel, so she's going for the demonic as well.
Right.
Putting that over with an emphasis on pain and like feeling fleshy and feeling mortal.
Right, and then like in the damsel route, you get within that chapter a rapid version of that escalation where you sort of strip her of her agency by just getting stuck in this loop where you're trying to figure out what she actually wants. So she iterates like 3 times, 4 times there.
While ignoring also kind of the parts that she actually wants.
Right, because she does
like,
say she wants to leave, and
so.
then you ignore that, and you're like, but what would make you happy?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of trying to force it out of her.
Oh, I see.
And so she's looking for some other thing that you might like to hear.
Yeah.
All right, on to the princess with what I think is the most interesting from a design standpoint. What was your inspiration behind the Beast Princess?
I thank you for saying that she's interesting. So I was going for, this one took a lot of work because we didn't just want her to be feral. Like, I think the witch is a much more interesting version of like Catgirl Princess, where she's still a person. Yeah. She has a lot of weird shit going on, but she's cute. So for the beast, it had to be more like something that is hunting you in the wilderness. But I wanted to go with kind of a questing beast thing. So one of the first designs was you never actually see all of her at once, but you just see a part of her that doesn't really feel like it belongs to the other parts that you've seen. Kind of just the mythic beast.
Yeah, like the wings, the horns, and the rat-like body.
Yeah, exactly. It's just weird bits kind of tacked on. So then eventually I just wound up cohesively making all of those into one design because she did have to be seen at some points.
Yeah.
Like amorphous. So
yeah, and then she also, from a writing perspective, was one of the ones that was reworked the most from the original demo. So it's like the original demo, it only had 6 chapter 2 princesses, so a lot of those we wound up splitting into 2 or making a standalone carve out in the full game. So she was both the way you would get the witch and the way you would get the beast in the full game, both led to the beast, who had a design that was closer to the current witch, and it was a little more of like this Captain Ahab type obsessive situation. So you had the voice of the obsessed as your guy. He just wanted revenge for being it felt like thematically that wasn't quite lining up with the actions you took in chapter 1. It felt like it had too much overlap with what eventually became the adversary. It was just, what if the adversary was feral, which wasn't very narratively interesting to us.
Yeah.
Much as people love werewolves. It would have just been a werewolf.
So it's like
we kind of went with like more of a god of the forest look as well, something that could also be transplanted basically to a fantasy setting with just the same effect.
Right, and in that first demo, so it's like we wound up splitting. What became the adversary in the tower was originally just the Fury, and we liked that name, so we kept it for the full release. And then it was the Beast for what eventually became the Beast and the Witch. So it's like thematically, because you went down with a knife, we made the adversary about a rivalry type relationship as roughly equals with a heavy undercurrent of violence, whereas the tower was a way to split out the scenarios where you just stood no chance against her or submitted to her and exploring that side of the relationship. And then likewise, it felt like there was something very easy to break out on the Beast side from that first demo about betrayal, which became the Witch. And then the Beast was sort of spun out of, well, you kind of wrong her, you kind of betray her, but like she you're not able to really harm her, so the power dynamics are different, so then it just becomes
I had to go. Like, I'll be back.
There is something bigger than exploring that relationship.
I might take a nap.
Yeah. I gotta say that first frame that you
do
get in
that.
there with, where she's like
You
peeking
do
behind the
that.
ferns, that is like one of the scariest frames in the entire game. The Beast Princess has what I would say some of the most disgustingly effective sound design. How do you like make the sound effects like where you're dissolving or stuff like that?
That is, we put the needed sound effects in a spreadsheet and send it to our sound guy. So
nice.
We work with a guy. His name's Phil Mikulski. He's great. We've worked with him since we started working in games. He's done work on a lot of different stuff and has just massive libraries of sound effects. So it's like for probably 90% of the things we send his way, he just has something. He has like, here's a dozen sound effects for sword swishing for the razor. Have fun. And then every so often, I think the Beast stuff, he maybe needed to do some bespoke design. So we'll do a combination for that of like just sending the text of the game describing what's happening. Thankfully, in the case of Slay the Princess, we have a narrator who vividly describes things, so that's helpful.
Yep.
And then we'll also just like provide supplementary descriptions, or if we happened to have an idea for a specific sound that we think would fit something, we'll like request that. So when the sequence in the wild where it's like the roots are moving around, we knew we wanted like a kind of cracking frozen pond type sound effect. But yeah, I think for the Beast it was just munching and acid sounds. Really gross ones.
I imagine you could probably do it with soda. If you spilled a bunch of soda, you could probably get a similar sound effect to dissolving.
I think we talked about this earlier, but the Greys, why are there two different but kind of the same princess?
She started as a fusion, but then the feelings and the characters going into it are so different that at first we were just going to do basically a color swap, but then it just became obvious that they have different motivations and they would need different theming.
Yeah. So like we very quickly settled on like a water versus fire dynamic and had a spirited discussion over which one should be water and which one should be fire. Abby won out there. My original one was the concept of it's raining because the smitten is really sad.
I see.
But given like how the damsel's chapter played out, and given like her core of just like wanting to make the player happy and the smitten's thoughts just kind of perpetually reinforcing that, it felt like it was better to go in a direction that's like, no, she still loves you and still wants that happiness and has learned some very bad ways to express it. Whereas then the prisoner side of it becomes more about the suppression of all emotions.
A lot that went into the Grey was kind of thinking about this one was definitely influenced a lot by like literature, so You know, Grey ladies are a whole thing amongst ghost people.
Yeah.
And are always living in certain kinds of places and associated with like certain kinds of tragic events. So
Yeah.
dead brides stuffed in suitcases, that sort of thing. But then thinking about what that ghost might be motivated to do. So the house being like a prison to her, with the prisoner is just like, well, you'll be here with me, like you will suffer with me here forever because this is where we live. And the damsel, it's all about, we should get out of here together. This place is horrible. Let's leave somehow. And then this is clearly the only way it's going to happen for us.
We've got a few concepts. We're not sure about a timeline yet, but we've got a few concepts that we're thinking of exploring further in like a little bit of an expansion.
Yeah,
the prisoner side of the Grey route is something that there's two ways to get there right now. One of them where you just kind of let her decapitate herself and leave her head downstairs doesn't feel like it meshes with the chapter, so we might add some more content in the future.
This is how a lot of the I'm pretty sure about that,
yeah.
But this is how
we're being coy. We're probably gonna do like a little free expansion at some point next year.
I've already designed them and everything.
Nice.
Yeah, a lot of the kind of writing for the game came from these little moments where we're like, well, getting to this chapter or ending it here feels like there's more to it.
Yeah.
And we would just keep writing until it was done, until it felt like whatever happened next would have to be